All right, so now as a Service Cloud consultant, you need to be familiar with some of the functionality that's available to extend in the console. And there's two different APIs that are available. The one that's available in Classic is the Salesforce Console Integration Toolkit. And then the Lightning API is the Lightning Console JavaScript API. Now, these topics are for advanced developers and can go very deep and wide and complex. You don't need to know all of the ins and outs related to these different APIs, but I wanted to make you aware of their existence. I'll run you through an example of a little bit of this. We may get into some Visualforce, but we're not going to go real deep. I do want to point you to some different resources that are available for your further exploration if you want to go more of a developer track. The Salesforce Console Integration Toolkit Developer Guide, long title, but man, eminently readable. And for whatever reason, the latest version I could find was back in spring of 17, although we're recording this right now in the winter 18 release, so this is a couple of cycles back. So I don't know if Salesforce is going to update this particular document or not. I will link to it in the resources section of the lecture, but I think what Salesforce is doing in lieu of keeping this up to date is they're doing updates to the Salesforce Console Developer Guide, which is yet another PDF, and this one is current with the Winter 18 release. And if you notice in the front end here in the table of contents, it gets into the two different APIs, and it leads with the Lightning Experience one for the Lightning Console JavaScript API for Lightning Experience. Also an excellent name. And then if I go back to the table of contents, the next chapter is the Salesforce Console Integration Toolkit for Salesforce Classic. So I think rather than them maintaining a separate guide for this integration toolkit, they're putting them both into this one Salesforce Console Developer Guide. And so there's some examples in here of how you can work with this console integration toolkit, and there's information on when to use it, etc., and some of the features that are provided, and further links for yet more PDFs, such as the SOAP API Developers Guide, which we actually looked at that previously when we looked at the Service Objects Reference or ERD diagram. And then as well, there's a Visualforce Developers Guide. And as you can tell, if you want to go the route of like a Developer 1 certification, you'll need to be diving into these sorts of things. There's a lot you need to understand to get that Dev 1 certification, as well as Apex. And oh, by the way, there's an Apex Developer Guide as well. All of these guides are a lot of pages also. So proceed with caution if you want to just stay as a consultant and don't worry about the code side of things a whole lot. But this is something that you need to be aware of as a consultant, because the functionality of the console can be extended through the use of these different APIs. And so there may be something related to this integration toolkit on the exam. So back to this help article, here's the two different APIs and more just high-level information on them. And they do just have the link here for referencing that one guide. So I'm pretty sure through this that I'm confirming that they're just moving forward with this Salesforce Console Developer Guide, which covers both APIs and toolkits, or whatever you want to call them. And so then as well, here is a sample Visualforce page using the Salesforce Console Integration Toolkit. And it's very high level, but it gives you a demonstration of some of the functionality you can use using this toolkit. And so how this works is you first create a Visualforce page, and you can cut and paste this code into your Visualforce page. We'll do that here in a second. I'll show you how to do that. If you've never done a Visualforce page before, get ready and add this to your resume and your LinkedIn profile and call yourself a developer if you want. Well, I wouldn't go that far, but you will have created a Visualforce page and very impressively used the Salesforce Console Integration Toolkit. Now that sounds impressive. So then these other steps will be that you'll create a custom link for cases that uses your Visualforce page. You'll edit the page layout to add the custom link, and then add any domains to the console's whitelist. I'm not sure we need to do that or not, but we'll just see if we can get through this and keep our fingers crossed. So I'm going to click this code icon here to view the source, and what that does is opens up the source in a new tab. And this is a good way to copy and paste from this. I'm going to copy this to my clipboard, and then I'm going to go into my Salesforce instance here. I'm going to get out of this macro that I gave up on creating previously. And so one way you can create a Visualforce page, if you just go into your URL bar here, is you just start typing the word apex, and then whatever you want to name the file after the /apex/. So it's whatever salesforce.com/apex/ I'm going to call this integration toolkit. Hit enter. It says that this doesn't exist. Normally there would be a link here and it would say, do you want to create this? Oh, sure I do. So let me go into setup and let's go into pages, Visualforce pages, and click new, and we'll create the Visualforce page this way. So for whatever reason, I wasn't able to create the Visualforce page through the URL. Used to be able to do that, may still be able to, but it was getting blocked for me. So we're going through the setup menu and we're going to call this page integration toolkit, tab over for the API name. We want to make this available in Lightning Experience, Salesforce 1, and Lightning Communities. We'll leave that unchecked. You can set the version settings to a different API version if you wish. I'm going to leave that to default. And then I'm going to get rid of all this, which is my default boilerplate that appears for Visualforce markup when you first create a Visualforce page, and I'm going to paste the code here. So let's click save, and let's go back to our help instructions. And so we've done the first two steps, and so now we're going to create a custom link for cases that uses your Visualforce page. And so what that means is if we search for buttons, links, and actions and find the one for cases and click on buttons, links, and actions for the cases object, and then we create a new custom link. So click new button or link, and we'll just call this integration. And we're going to make this a detail page link. And the behavior, here's where we will select actually the content source is the Visualforce page. And we want that Visualforce page to be integration toolkit. So we'll set that behavior to display in a new window, and we'll click save. And so now the new custom link will not be displayed to users until you add it to the page layout. So that's reminding us that we need to do this next step, which is edit the page layout for cases and add your custom link. And so check this out. So if we go to a case, and I'm just going to stay outside of the console so as to not clutter up things a little bit. We'll edit the layout here. And so we've created a custom link. And so now if we go to custom links, we have our integration link that we can add to the page layout. And so I'm going to add this to the custom links related list section. And there's also this out of the box upsell, cross-sell opportunity custom link. I'm going to move that over to the right and click save. And so we'll search for the integration custom link now. And so here is our custom link for integration. When I click on this, it should open a new window. So let's click on that. And it did. It opened the new tab, and here is that sample Visualforce page. This is the code. This is the result. And so here's some of the functionality from this integration toolkit exemplified in the sample page. So you can open a primary tab. We probably should do this in the console actually, or it's going to not know what to do. So I'm going to go to sample console, and now we're going to click the integration link. And we probably want that behavior to not be in a new window now that I think about it. So this is all just real world stuff. This is my life as a consultant on the platform, is a lot of moments where I realize like, oh yeah, I should do this instead, duh. And so we need to adjust accordingly, basically. So you got to be able to roll with the punches, deal with imperfections, and be okay with that, and just always iterating and improving. That's what it's all about as a consultant or developer or admin on the platform. And so we need to view the fields on the case object. We're trying to get to that custom link called integration. And so it's not a field, it's a custom link. So all right, so buttons, links, and actions under cases is where we'll find integration, and we'll click edit to change the behavior to not display in a new window, but to display an existing window. And we're not going to add sidebar or header. And so I'm going to click save, and I'm going to go back to the sample console. And then let me just open a different case just in case there's any sort of caching or memory issues. I'm going to click the integration custom link. It opens in the console, and so now hopefully this works. So we're going to open a primary tab, doesn't work. Open a sub tab, doesn't work. Okay, set title to example, that worked. I changed the title to example. I don't know if you noticed that. Close this tab. And that worked. Yay. So some of it worked. Let me try this again. Integration. And so let me try and open a sub tab. So some of these are working, some of them are not. I'm not going to troubleshoot it any further, and you guys can chime in if you get that figured out. If you want to provide more guidance to the other students, you can add that in the QA section and add notes related to that. But odds are the integration toolkit is not going to be on the exam. It might be. The main thing is you need to understand is that you can further customize the console, whether in Classic or in Lightning, through these two different APIs. And the Classic one is the Salesforce Console Integration Toolkit, and then the other is the Lightning Console JavaScript API. So I do encourage you to check out the resources section of this lecture. And now we're going to move on to the next lecture, which has to do with adjusting the Service Console settings.